there, welcome to podcast episode number 22. We've arrived at that time of year where I'm weirdly stressed about my summer knits because contrary to what you might believe when you're seeing me wear this, it got very warm here very suddenly and I have none of my summer knits done. I have some on my needles, I will talk to you about them. I have many in my planes, I will also talk to you about those. And I have a finished object that is not summery at all, but it is a finished object nonetheless, and I'm very excited to share my thoughts on it, so let's get started. So this beautiful sweater here is called the wānaka sweater by Anna Elizabeth Anderson, and I cast this on as a bit of a vacation project. I wasn't necessarily intending to knit a bunch of sweaters at this time of year, but I was going on a long weekend trip, and the only other project I really had on my needles was a scrap yarn sweater. Actually, this one, I have it right here. This is my scrap yarn sweater that I made. And this had, I think, 14 balls of yarn attached to it, and it didn't seem very portable, so I was just looking for something I could do with the yarn I had at home that would be like easy to throw in a bag and knit in the car and all that. So I just browsed Ravelry and I looked at a bunch of sweater patterns and I actually found some cool ones that I saved for later, but this is the one I decided to do with the 𝗪𝗡𝗧𝙧𝙖 that I had laying around in this very pretty dark brown color. I believe last time I showed it to you in a podcast episode, I had come back from vacation already, so I had already connected in the round. For the construction of this, it is a drop shoulder sweater, and you're working it by starting in the back, and you're doing some short rows there to do the back shaping, and then you're picking up stitches over here for the shoulders, and you work the shoulder pieces down here. They are pretty long here because the sweater has this button band. And then you connect them in the front and you then just finish the front and back panel connected under the arms, you finish the body and then the sleeves. It's a pretty like standard drop shoulder sweater construction. The only interesting detail the sweater really has is the button band over here that I decided to do with some heart-shaped buttons. I made a few changes to this pattern. The first one was that I knitted a different size because I wasn't able to hit gauge. So with this 𝗪𝗡𝗧𝙧𝙖, I had swatched a while before starting this project specifically, and I had swatched at a 20 stitch gauge, I believe, and this pattern recommends a 21 stitch gauge. So I think I started working the size 4, which is one size down from what is recommended for my bust circumference. And then when I was in the car and I was doing the back shaping, the panel looked very large and I measured it and I realized that I am actually knitting at a 19 stitch gauge. And my sweater was going to turn out really, really large. So I pivoted to making the size 2 in this for all of the stitch counts, and for all of the length measurements I stuck to like a size 4 or 5, I believe, something in between there. I wasn't super worried about it because it is just a drop shoulder sweater that is pretty simple other than this button band, so I wasn't like overly worried about anything going wrong there, and I was happy with the way my fabric looked. So I was fine making that change and it worked out really well. I really barely noticed after I decided to make that switch. And then the other thing I changed was the order of working things, or how I work things, I guess, because since I was traveling, I wanted my project to remain portable, so I didn't want to pick up for the shoulders over here from the back panel, and I actually cast on for both of the shoulders separately. So I just cast on up here and I worked this shoulder piece, and then I cast on up here, I worked this shoulder piece, and then I connected them in the front. And only later when I came back home, I attached this shoulder seam here, so I did some seaming that is not in the pattern. And then the only other thing I changed was the buttonholes, because that was actually the part of the sweater that I worked next after connecting in the round. Usually when I knit sweaters top down, I will connect in the round and I'll check if the ease is fine, if the sweater fits me, if the yoke is okay, and then I will put the body stitches on hold and I will work the sleeves next because I find that a little bit more practical to do. But for the sweater, I just felt like the collar might affect how long I wanted the sleeves to be. Because it is quite extensive, I guess. So I wanted to put that in first, and this was a new button band construction to me because I don't knit a lot of like cardigans and stuff like that, I guess. I just don't wear it as much, so I've only knitted one button band before, which was a ribbed button band, and this is a double knit button band. So that was kind of new to me, but it was actually really fun to do. I quite enjoyed the process of it, even though I had some trouble figuring out on which side I was supposed to start because I was tired and I somehow mixed up my left and right. I don't know what I was doing. Anyway, you work this part, the part that is behind the buttons first, or the part that you later attach your buttons to, this one. And you just pick up some stitches along this edge here, and then you do some double knitting, and that's basically it. And then for this side, you also add the buttonholes, and that is where I made my little change, because I have these heart-shaped buttons. I got them at like a €1 shop a while ago. I just have them laying around at home, and when I saw this pattern and I knew I was going to use this dark brown yarn. I thought these buttons would be really cool to go with that, so I really wanted to use them, and they do have the right diameter for what the pattern suggests, but obviously they have like a different shape than most normal round buttons. So when I was working the buttonhole, I just noticed that it seemed pretty large and like the button might slip out pretty easily, so I made the buttonhole, I think, 4 rows shorter than what the pattern says for this part down here, and then later you pick up stitches around the neck for this collar. And I also slightly changed this buttonhole here. It is a double folded collar, so you're knitting 2 buttonholes in this collar and then you're folding it down and you're attaching the buttonholes to each other. So this top button is actually going through 2 layers of fabric, but I still made it a little bit smaller by not doing any decreasing and casting on. So in the pattern you decrease a stitch and then you cast it back on top of the buttonhole, and I just omitted that completely, so my buttonhole would be a bit slimmer, and I feel like for my purposes it worked out really well. I don't think I will ever really open these buttons. They do open and close quite easily without slipping out of where they're supposed to be. And then I picked up for the sleeves next, and it's a pretty standard sleeve. You work some decreases and then you work some ribbing for the cuff. And I was actually thinking I should maybe do my half-twisted rib, because I've been doing that for my more recent projects that include ribbing. I just think it looks very nice and polished. But I didn't want to do it for the collar because it is worked flat, and working half-twisted rib or a twisted rib flat isn't very fun because you have to purl through the back loop, and I didn't want to do that, so I decided to just knit normal ribbing. I think for the sweater it's fine. It's supposed to be like more of a relaxed sweater that I can just throw on in my everyday life, and it's a very dark color too, so it's not like the ribbing is gonna super stick out. And I mean, I didn't do the worst job on it either. It's fine. It just looks like normal ribbing, and unless you're like super close to it, you can't really see that it's maybe slightly uneven in some spots. I will say generally I probably didn't do my cleanest knitting on this sweater because I was knitting on it on the go so much. I was like in the car, then it was in my bag, then I was on a boat, you know, like it was, that sounds so pretentious. I was on a ferry, like with a billion other people. I wasn't on a boat. Glad we got that cleared up, but what I meant to say was just that even up here in the stockinette parts of the sweater, you can probably tell that I didn't do my most focused knitting if you're like staring at them very close up. It's fine. I mean, it's a dark yarn. It was supposed to be just a throw on and go everyday type of project with a very affordable yarn, so I'm not too worried about it. On top of that, it wasn't like I was feeling super motivated to do a bunch of half-twisted rib on the cuff or on the hem of this, just because it is quite a long cuff and hem, and not every project needs to be my most dedicated piece of work, I guess. For the body, it is just knitted straight down and then finished with some ribbing as well. And I needed to get more yarn because I didn't buy this yarn specifically for this project, so I was cutting it kind of close, and I could have absolutely just finished it with the yarn that I had, but it would have been a little bit too cropped for what I would have liked, and I was ordering yarn anyway, so I thought I might order an extra ball. And actually the ball of yarn that came in, it was the same dye lot, like they have the same number, but somebody has written like an L next to this one. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure if that means it's a different color, but at least I can't tell that it's a different color, so that's fine by me. I just finished like the last part of the hem with that new ball of yarn. So it would have probably been fine just making it a few centimeters shorter, but well, I got the extra yarn and now I have this left over, so we'll see what I do with that. For my final thoughts on this project, I am very happy I decided to do this one. I think I got a really cool finished object. I think it fits me well. I think it looks nice on me, and I'm also happy that I knitted a more basic item. I think I said in the beginning of the year that I want to knit more basics this year just because I always get so like excited seeing all of these like crazy cool designs and a lot of color work and lace and whatever, but when I'm out living my life as most people, I grab clothes that are simple and basic and easy to style and that go with all my shoes and my jeans and my jackets, and I don't have to put in a bunch of effort or thinking to style them appropriately. So I think this will be an item I get a lot of use out of. It's comfy to wear at home, it's comfy to wear out, and I don't have to feel super precious about it because it was a simple, quick sweater with an affordable yarn. And I think that's the type of project I should probably aim to do more often. For the pattern, it was well written, it was clear, it was easy to follow. I had no trouble with it at all, despite never having knitted a button band like that. So I think if I can do the most complicated part without any experience doing it, the pattern did its job very well. The yarn was enjoyable to work with. I like the color selection. It's an alright yarn. You can obviously tell that it is not the most expensive one. It is already doing some pilling here and there were some factory knots in it, but for the price I think it's completely fine, and I'm really happy to have this project completed because now I can actually focus on my proper summer knits. I just checked in my last podcast episode and this is actually not a new cast on, but it was a new cast on last time, so you only saw a few rows of it. And I can now proudly present my hopefully soon to be first ever finished crochet garment. That actually works. That would be cool. If you don't know, I used to crochet long before I started knitting. I think I started crocheting sometime during the pandemic. And to be honest with you, I have no idea what I was actually doing all of those years because I never learned how to read a crochet pattern. I was always just self-drafting and following like video tutorials. I never learned anything about yarn, so I was just buying random stuff that I liked the color of. I never like tracked my projects anywhere like I do on Ravelry now, so I have a very faint memory of some projects I did, but I also forgot a bunch of them. And in retrospect, now that I am so like structured about my knitting, I'm very confused what was going on in my crocheting before I ever started knitting. So I don't know. I do remember that once I tried to make a crochet sweater, I was self-drafting that without any idea of how a sweater worked, and I was using a bright green acrylic yarn. So you might be able to guess how that one ended, and that's why I'm calling this my first ever finished wearable crochet project. Hopefully. It is not yet. It is actually lucky that I needed to wait for yarn to come in for this sweater because I don't think I would have worked on this so much otherwise. I think I might have abandoned this because, as I was saying, I never got very technical about the crocheting, which means I'm not great at it. I'm okay, I can do all of the stitches, I can figure out something like this, but I'm kind of slow at crocheting and I get a bit tired of it after a while if it takes me that long. So the main reason why I was working on this so much is just because I had to wait for my knitting project to get enough yarn. So what I did here is a technique called filet crochet. If you didn't know about filet crochet, you create these little boxes with double crochets and chain stitches, and then you can decide to either leave them empty like I did here, or you can decide to fill them with more double crochets like I did here, and then that creates a pattern when you look at it from afar. So it's kind of like doing color work and knitting just with one color, and you can technically also do like color work in crochet. Anyway, I used this technique a year ago to make a doily for my grandma because my grandma gifted me all of her old supplies, and included in that was a bunch of crochet thread and also a few like old magazines that had crochet patterns or doilies in them. And I used one of the charts in there to make her a doily, and the filet crochet was pretty fun, and somehow this summer I was reminded it exists and I thought it would be cool to make a top for myself using filet crochet. And because I liked the chart so much, I just took the same chart from that magazine and I'm putting it on here. So like one of these sides, this like one flower is from the magazine, and I just put it next to each other twice. I made some changes to it because my top wasn't, I guess, wide enough to fit them next to each other like that. So some of these elements are a little thinner than they are in the original pattern, but I kept the essence of it and it's the same like length. So yeah, made some changes to that. For the shape of the top, I did like this big of a gauge swatch, and then I did about 15 minutes of planning in Excel, and that's it. So again, I'm like self-drafting something very random. My plan for this, this is going to be the front panel. And then my plan is to add some straps to this. So you can see that here in the middle, I already did a bunch of filled boxes, and that's going to be the neckline, I guess. So that's going to sit here. And then I'm going to continue over here and on this side for a bit of a strap to go up here. And that is all I'm doing for the front panel. So this is like a little cropped see-through top that would be nice as like a swimsuit cover-up, I guess, or I don't know what kind of styling I'm going to do with it. For the back panel, it's going to be mostly empty squares, which is why I'm hoping that I can actually finish this project. There is going to be a design kind of similar to the top of this on the very back of it. So over here, I guess, I'm going to put that. And then the rest of the top is just going to be empty squares. And my plan then is to attach both the panels up top at the shoulder seam. So I'm going to attach them here. And for the rest, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, if I'm going to attach them under the arms like all the way down, or if I'm going to attach them some of the way down and leave like a big split hem situation going on, or if I'm going to find some nice ties to put in the sides. I haven't really decided on that, or I have a lot of options in my mind and I'm going to finish it and then see what looks the best, I guess. That's my plan. I will say that last time I spoke about this, I was really excited about this project and I was having a lot of fun with it, and in the middle of it, that fun faded a lot because I'm kind of slow at crocheting, and I was getting a little bit frustrated because in the time that it took me to do most of this front panel, I could have probably finished 2 knitted tops of this size. So I was just getting a bit annoyed with how long it was taking me. It's also just not the most comfortable thing to do. I'm working with a 2mm hook, and this thread is super thin and like difficult to hold after a while, and it's just, you know, it's a bit annoying to do. But I think now that I can see a finish line, now that I'm almost done with the front and all of the complicated parts of this are over, I am a little more excited to pick this back up, I guess. I am hoping I'll have enough thread for the rest of it. I think I will, which is actually quite surprising because for my doily that I did last year, I ran out of the thread so often. But I have this left here, and then I have one more ball of the white, and I'm hoping that'll be enough for the back panel, especially because there isn't as much of a design on it, so it'll mostly be just empty. And well, we'll see if I finish it until next time. I hope so. It would kind of be fun to have this as a finished object and see how much I'll put it on. I don't really think I own anything else that is see-through like that for this summer, so I guess I'll see what I'll do with the styling of it. But for now, my goal is just to finish it, because I honestly think if I wouldn't have had to wait on the yarn to arrive for this sweater, I would not have finished this project this summer. I think it wouldn't have happened because I would have gotten too frustrated, and this way I didn't really have anything else to do, so I kind of had to work on this one. But yeah, well, it's been okay. I'm so far happy with my crocheting experience, and that I decided to look back into that. I would kind of at some point maybe like to do a proper crochet pattern. I actually think I looked into it earlier this week just for like 5 minutes. I was on Ravelry scrolling through like sweater patterns for crochet, and I didn't really find anything yet that I super duper enjoy. Maybe I'll do something with Granny Squares. That would be kind of fun. I'll see. I think I'm gonna need a little break from crocheting things after this one, but we'll see when I pick it back up. And then I have one more properly new project on my needles, which is this one. It's not really much yet. I cast this on like 2 weeks ago, and then I didn't touch it anymore since then because I am attempting to use up the leftovers from my leftovers. So this sweater that I showed earlier, this was supposed to use up all of my cotton leftovers, and I did use up a lot of them, as you might be able to tell, but I had leftovers. So this is my bag of leftovers, and it was, I think, like 340 meters of yarn, if I remember correctly. I don't know if that's true, but it was cutting it very close for being enough to make a summer top for me. And I went to my stash and I found 2 more yarns to add to this big bag of chaos. So I found some merinos. These are not cotton, but there's a white and there's this dark green, and that kind of fit within the color scheme of what I already had going on. So I added them to the mix, and I am making another scrap yarn project, like a top for myself, because I want to really get rid of the scraps. I'm just hoping this bag will be empty by the end of this project, and then I can not worry about scrap yarn for a while. I think whatever is left at the end of this, I will just get rid of because I'm tired of it at this point, which is also, I guess, the reason why I haven't really picked this up. I've been working the scrappy stripes for so long now. I'm not the most excited to be working on this, to be honest, but it's supposed to be a quick project. I have some ideas for how this is supposed to look. I'm kind of self-drafting for the beginning here. I've slightly followed the Ivy top pattern by Petite Knit because I really like the neckline on that. So I did the same cast on and back shaping and the saddle shoulder here. I think that looks really nice, and I'm just, as I was doing with my other scrap yarn project, I'm switching colors every 2 rows, and I don't really have any specific order to them. I just grab the one that looks like it has the most left, which most of the time will be a white or this dark green now. So I have some colors where I really have very little yarn, so I'm not really sure how this is going to look once it's done. But this is essentially where I'm leaving the pattern, and I'm going to go more my own route. I want a little bit of positive ease on this. That's the plan, at least. I just don't want this project to be complicated, so I'm not trying to make it super fitted. I'm gonna just continue working both the front panel and the back panel down in stockinette stitch. I'm including some I-cord edge at the side here, at least I hope I will. That is the plan. I don't really know if it'll look good with the color switches, but I kind of don't like about the ivy top that it doesn't have any finishings here around the armhole. I don't think it looks very good. So I'm trying to do like an I-cord here, and I'm just gonna work both of them straight down, do the stripes, and then connect in the round. And then I'm hoping I can put like the back stitches on hold. And for the front, I would kind of like to follow the shape of my bust here, like do some, I guess short rows you could call it, like just take some of the stitches and work like a sloped half circle type of shape in the front. I guess that would be my idea. I don't know if it'll work. And then I would like to bind off and knit a stockinette panel totally separately to have the stripes go in the other direction and then attach that to the top I already have. I'm not sure if I explained that very well. I will draw a little picture for you so you can see what I'm thinking kind of. So I would have the stripes going this way horizontally up here for the top part of my body, and then for the rest of the body I would have them go vertically down. I think that would look kind of cool for a scrappy project. But as I said, it's not my main priority right now. I just wanted to get this sweater done because I felt like I was almost there anyway, and admittedly I also enjoy working sweaters a little bit more than summer tops. And now I guess I'm focusing on my crochet project a little bit more, but that's quite normal for me. I like to have more than one project on my needle in case I ever do want to switch it up a little bit. But mostly I'll be focusing on one at a time and then probably starting the next one once I'm close to ending the first one, something like that. That's been working out the best for me, and I think this will be laying around for a little bit longer because I actually have some more extensive plans this time. I usually try to not talk too much about plans. I will include ideas that I have, but I've just found that at the end of my podcast episode I will talk about plans and then none of those plans will happen. But this time I am very sure that at least one of my plans will happen. And I also have acquisitions. I never have acquisitions, and this week I do. So for my acquisitions, I mentioned earlier that I ordered more of this drop Stacey for my wānaka sweater because I was ordering yarn anyway. And the yarn I was ordering anyway is this one. This is the Drops Cotton Merino. And I am planning to make the Nui top by Columbine and Louisa with it. Last week I made a video about my favorite summer top releases of 2026, and I mainly made that because I wanted to make one more summer top this season, and I was just browsing through Ravelry and checking what patterns I liked, and I found some of my favorites I thought I'd share, but I also selected one of them for me to actually make, and this is going to be the one. And the recommended yarn for that is the Cotton Merino by Drops, which is a yarn I've never worked with before, but I am really curious about because it gets really warm in the summer, and in the winter it does get cold, but never super cold. So a lot of the wool sweaters I am making are actually a bit too warm for the climate here. And I'm on a bit of a journey, I guess, to find yarns that are maybe a bit more suitable for where I live, so I can make more stuff out of, fibers like cotton, for example. So I thought this would be a cool yarn to try, and I ended up getting the black color that is also in the sample picture. And for buttons, I also got buttons to go with it. These are the buttons I got. These are like pearls, I guess, and they're mostly round. And I selected those because in the pattern, this neckline that you're doing, where the split is, you're closing the buttons with a crochet chain, and I was hoping that a crochet chain would be able to grab onto this quite easily, more than like a flat button, which then might sit a little tilted, I guess. But I don't know yet. I'll figure that out when I get to it, because this project, while I am looking forward to making it and wearing it, is not the next in line for me to cast on, because I actually have more yarn on the way to me. That's a bit of an unusual situation for me, because normally I only get more yarn when I'm completely out of it. But my main project for the next few weeks is going to have to do with this striped sweater that I showed earlier. This was a scrap yarn sweater, and I self-drafted it. And I ended up really liking what I did here with the construction. It was really fun to knit. I think it looks really nice, and I thought it would be nice to share. So I'm actually writing a pattern for this sweater. And if I'm writing a pattern, I'm obviously gonna have to knit up a proper sample that is not just done with a scrap yarn. So I have some yarn on the way to me to do a second sample of that, and then hopefully start a test knit call pretty soon. So if you're interested in making something like this, I would be very happy if you're interested in testing it or making the pattern later once it's out. I'm gonna make very few changes to what I did here. I'm gonna make the neckline pick up a little bit different so it looks a bit cleaner, and I'm gonna make the saddle slightly shorter because I think in the sample it turned out a bit too long with the weight of the rest of the garment. But other than that, it's gonna be very similar. It's a saddle shoulder and raglan construction where the back shaping is knitted flat at first, so you do a few rows of flat knitting here. And then you connect in the round and you do this saddle where you increase to both sides, to the front and the back. And then I placed some raglan seams here, and you're going to be increasing mostly into the sleeves at first and then into the sleeves and body and all that. And once the yoke is done, the body is just knitted straight down. For the sleeves there are a few decreases, just like a pretty standard comfy sleeve that doesn't end super wide at the bottom but still looks pretty straight. And the finishings are these rolled edge finishings that are held in place with a little bit of ribbing. And the sweater is going to have these 2-row stripes all over again. I'm going to stay pretty similar in color for my second sample because I actually ended up really liking the way these colors look together, and a lot of you have also messaged me and said that you enjoy the colors, so I thought that would be cool to do. And I'm pretty excited for that, so we'll see when the yarn gets here. I'll be casting on and I'll be taking you along for me knitting the sample and making the pattern, publishing it and all that. And I'm hoping that next time we chat I will have a test knit call ready. Maybe. We'll see about that, how fast I am with knitting up my sample, but I hope you're around for that, and you can let me know about your summer plans, what you're working on, if you're also crocheting or if you're just a knitter, if you like summer projects at all, maybe you're just more of a winter person and you're doing wool sweaters right now. I'd love to hear about it, and I hope I'll see you next time.